Okay, so I'm not going to go a lot over green militarization because the module project sort of went into what I wanted to talk about. Um, the crimes that you saw and the human rights violations that you saw are um, often effects of green militarization. And just in case you kind of need a definition. So, militarization is obviously just the use of military tactics, weapons, and language, usually used in a non war setting. One paper said that it was the processes in which civil society um, gets ready for the production of violence. So, it's legitimizing and often glorifying the use of force. Um, and again, this is all usually in a non-war setting, but by militarizing, um, you can create basically a war-like setting. And even by just using the word like war on something, you can create an excuse for militarizing. So even here in America, we had what war on poverty, we had war on drugs, we had war on crime back in the day. Um, those are the ones that come to mind. And often where there is war crimes. So I just wanted to mention police militarization because that is something that's happening in this country. Um, and it's important to notice and acknowledge that because obviously people are dying from interactions with police. So, another quote that I liked: police are the embodiment of the state's power to deprive citizens of rights, up and to including the right to life. So, not only getting rid of our rights to protest, getting rid of our rights to protect our water sources or our health, such as in the Standing Rock conflict. Um, Again, our right to protest. Often protests are faced with pretty heavily, I don't want to say armed. I'm not sure what they're carrying in the most part. I don't like listening to those things because it makes me stressed. But you got tear gas, you got rubber bullets, which can and often do cause a lot of injuries to protesters. Um, I know someone who had their eye shot out, and a lot of people get their fingers broken. The right to free speech, the right to journalist rights. So if you guys were, I guess, up at 6 in the morning, I'm not sure why I was up at 6 in the morning on May 20th last year, but if you guys were up, then you would have saw, and if you watch CNN, um, even though it did spread to other news networks after this happened, but if you were up and awake and I guess paying attention to the news on that day last year. We have Omar Jimenez, a CNN reporter, being arrested. The entire like reporting team was arrested in Minneapolis, and this is something that like even like in war, war journalists are pretty much given free passes even in a wartime setting because people tend to respect the rights of journalists to get out there and get the truth of what's happening. So um, I know when I watched this, I was pretty shook up, even though they weren't violent when they arrested them. Um, it just seemed really alien for me to be seeing it. And then you also have people who are dying, so losing their lives, obviously. George Floyd was one. And if you guys have been paying attention to that trial, Derek Chauvin has been jailed for murder. I think he got guilty on all three charges. Makia Bryant is a recent one, Adam Toledo, both of them teens that were killed by the police. Adam or Antonio Brown, I know there was another one that was supposed to come out yesterday, and I think North Carolina was getting ready for protests. They called a state of emergency, and I think they called in the National Guard. Um, but so you think about this militarization, right? You think about this use of force, glorifying force um, against often unarmed people and people who are trying to use their rights to protest or to free speech. And that's causing a problem. Oh, so what I wanted to mention on this slide, I didn't show the graph, but so I read a couple studies on police militarization in America, and it does turn out that there is a significant positive relationship between how many weapons or how much military off-cast police departments get and the number of people that die at the hands of police. So the more they're militarized, the more people die. And in addition, you got this sense of us versus them, protesters, typical American people being the enemy, whereas they are uh, the heroes in the sense, fighting for, I guess, law and order as they see it. And usually when people are at war with someone else, they tend to dehumanize them, and they tend to look the other way when there are human rights violations. Okay, so you take this mindset and you turn it to the global south and conservation, and you get things like this: hunting poachers, save an elephant, hunter poacher. There are volunteer programs in South Africa, specifically for Kruger National Park, where people are able, South African residents are able to sign up for this program and get taught how to track and how to run patrols for the national park. And one of their mottos was save a rhino, hunt a poacher. So I thought that was pretty strange. You get this idea of legitimizing and glorifying violence against poachers when the whole issue, the whole terminology, poachers, is kind of fraught and not necessarily correct. So when you think of poachers, right, you think of someone stealing something that someone else owns. But we're talking about wildlife that is actually in South Africa. And the native South Africans are often alleged to be poachers. Um, they're not stealing anything that is not theirs, correct? They're taking what is theirs or what should be theirs. So again, green militarization is just use of military tactics to protect the environment. Often park rangers are trained by ex-military and mercenaries, or they might actually be ex-military and mercenaries. And this causes a lot of issues because it's not, you know, even when they're trained by like professional people, you get a lot of issues with those human rights violations. So for example, I was watching this video that I was going to show you guys, but I decided we didn't have enough time for that. And it was about how Britain was sending soldiers to Kruger National Park to teach the local park rangers how to track and become militarized, basically. And they mentioned that it was good that they were being trained by British military because, and I'm pretty sure it was a British soldier that was saying this, but he was saying something about the British military having, you know, the ideals of honor and integrity and justice as part of their motto or their way of being. And it turns out that Britain has been tapped for a number of war crimes that happened in Iraq and in Afghanistan as well. Allegations of sexual assault, rape, physical torture, etc., murder. But we don't have time for all that. What we're going to do right here is we are going to stop. Oh, not stop share. I don't want to stop share. We're going to watch this one little thing. It's another documentary, Guns for Hire. And I wish that we had enough time to watch the entire thing, but we don't. So it's just going to be a very short clip. But the story behind this is someone, and I'm pretty sure he was born in Kenya, but I think he ended up training with Britain, it feels like. And he went to the Congo to train the park rangers for a number of parks, particularly Virunga, which we'll be talking about a little bit later. And, you know, in the beginning of this documentary, they're talking about him being paid a pittance for his expertise and how he's basically sacrificing a lot of things to be out here in the heart of darkness and training these people who are pretty much underdogs in this war against poachers. And so this is just a very short clip I'm going to show you guys just to sort of show, I guess, the power dynamics between park rangers and locals. So let's see. I don't know if I'm going to be able to hear it, but it's okay. Okay, so again, it's not very obvious, and I kind of hesitated on even showing this clip because frankly, I'm not sure you guys are going to get it, and it might just be because we all have different life experiences and ways of seeing the world. But I'm hoping you guys are able to see that, like, get to this point of him talking to this guy, basically stopping this guy, just out of nowhere. He's on his way home, and he just happens to pass by, and you have just these two men show up, both carrying arms, stopping you and asking where you're going, what do you know about this, etc., etc. In particular, I didn't like the question, elephants belonging to who, and that's just my thing. But it feels, to me personally, I don't know if you guys know about Sundown Towns. They were places all over America. It wasn't just in the South, but all over America, where Black people, it was best for Black people not to be there after sunset. And they often prided themselves on that reputation. They would make sure that Black people knew that it wasn't the best place to be after sunset. So to me, it kind of felt like, you know, this guy is just driving through and cops stop him and, you know, are warning him away from the area. That's the reason I didn't think you guys were going to get it. It's just because we have different life experiences, etc. And that's not a bad thing. It's just that it means that we look at things differently. Okay, so We are going to hear about a protester from Virunga, from the Congo. And I just wanted to give you guys some background on Virunga National Park. So it's in the Congo. So we talked about Leopold's free rubber state and how he um, did a number, to say lightly, on the Congolese people while trying to turn a profit in this area that he had complete control over. And we talked about how after he died, the Belgian government took over the colonization and the colonial running of the Congo. The Congo was given independence in like 1960s, 1964, I want to say. But in 1925, Albert National Park was created, and this is named after a Belgian king, obviously. Now it's known as Virunga, but it was once Albert National Park. The locals were evicted, and they often were not compensated, even when the ranges, the borders of the national park expanded. People were continuously kicked out and often weren't compensated. Ex-soldiers in the colonial army patrol the borders, and this is during the Belgian, when they were a Belgian colony. And then after independence, we have guards being given blanket permission just to shoot to kill. So you could have just accidentally stepped inside the border of the park. You wouldn't know it. And you would be shot because they were given the permission to do so. Okay. So before we get into that talk, I do want to mention, does militarization actually help? And it doesn't. That's a pretty basic finding, and it's, yeah, it does not help. So most wildlife crimes are subsistence driven. So in the Guns for Hire Congo documentary, and I'll send it to you guys if you guys want it. I'll send it over the Canvas announcements. But we see Conrad and his trainees stop two guys that were fishing, and they stop them. They have guns on them, and they stop them from doing that. They blame them for snares that happened to be in the area at the same time. And they did this little interrogation that was kind of disturbing. They ransacked their house, etc. But they're stopping these local guys that are just fishing. They even said that they were given permission to fish in the area by someone that was in the national park's hierarchy. And it is a fact that most wildlife crimes are subsistence driven. People do it to either get food for themselves, to get materials that they need, or to get money for things that they sell. And militarization just happens to fuel the armed response of the locals. So, if someone is constantly pointing a gun at you, you're probably going to try and get a gun yourself, just to protect yourself. You also have this sort of, I don't want to say, I can't think of the word for it, but it's when you're told to do something and out of spite, you decide to do something else. That's the total opposite of what they told you to do, or even to do the thing that they told you not to do. So you have people that do that as well. You have people that go into the national park and will destroy habitats, will kill animals just because they're being told not to do it, because they feel that it's unjust that this land and all these resources were taken from them. And now you have people that are threatening violence against them for trying to use what is theirs. For Indigenous people, you have higher rates of poverty and lower levels of physical well-being if they live closer to national parks. This one study found, and then you have this entire this mindset again of a person being guilty until proven innocent, and that's why it's okay, supposedly, for rangers to just shoot poachers, to shoot people that happen to be in the national park, that might happen to be near a snare, because guilty until proven innocent. And there was another paper, I think, I don't want to say Duffy, but I can't remember her last name. She found, or she counted up, that between 2008 and 2013, 300 alleged poachers, so they are not sure if they were actually poachers or not, but 300 alleged poachers were killed in, I think she was focused in Kruger. Yeah, I think she was focused on Kruger. That paper was focused on Kruger. So you got 300 people losing their lives. They might have been poachers. They might not have been. Even if they were poachers, is the price of a rhino worth more than the price of their life? In my opinion, it's not. I think human lives are worth more. Um, you guys may disagree with that, and that's totally fine. It's a very human, anthropocentric view of the world, but that's just my opinion. So let's look at this video. The guy is talking in French, so we have a translator that's sort of giving giving the talk for him, or translating for us, for people who speak English. But he's from the Congo, and there's going to be an issue, I think, at some point, and I'll just skip past that. Yeah, okay. So actually, hold on. I do want to hear this. Share. Nope, that's not what I wanted. Okay, so that was part of that EU biodiversity conference that I shared with you guys a little bit earlier. But what I wanted to get take away for this part of the lecture is that militarization does not help anything. It tends to exacerbate conflict, and it tends to lower the quality of life for people that are living close to the park. And green militarization is often a continuation of colonialist violence.